Hi, my name's Thor Prohaska. I'm from Queensland, Australia.
Before I got into snowboarding, I was a surfer and a skateboarder. The first snowboard I ever saw was in a track surfing magazine. It was a winter stick. And the first time I ever tried snowboarding was in 1980 at Mount Buller on a snurfer.
Unfortunately, boards like the winter stick and the snurfer don't work well in Australia because we don't have a lot of soft, deep snow. So I decided to try and build boards that would suit Australian conditions. My brand name was Flowmotion, and I built 6 prototypes from 1981 to 1985.
My first snowboard was a skateboard with 4 independently moving skis. The rear skis were attached with cross-country ski bindings, making them detachable. This allowed me to fit them to my cross-country ski boots and ride the lifts back up the mount. The first test run showed this was not a good design because the board just slid out when I turned. So I fitted fins to each ski, allowing me to turn, but this increased drag and was useless on hard snow. A further problem was that when the snow was too deep, the skateboard trucks caused drag, making it unrideable. The best run I had on this board was from the top station at Thredbo down to the village. The second board was very different. The idea was to have curved layered plates to bite into the snow and turn the board by weighting from edge to edge. This wasn't successful, and I moved on to my third prototype. The next board had a central wooden plank fixed to a 3mm sheet of polyethylene. This was better, but there were still side slipping problems when turning, so I added stiffening and fins, which improved the performance. fourth prototype board replaced the central wooden plank with a wider fiberglass one. The front foot binding was rotatable and could be locked in different positions to make it easier to ride drag lifts. Fins were added progressively to the bottom of the board to reduce the side sleeper. I added a curve to the back half of the board, thinking this would enhance turning, but in fact it was worse. Overall, the performance of this board was not much better than the previous one. While I was having a ski lesson in 1984 to improve my parallel turns, I realised that a snowboard should have side cut so it would turn the same way that a ski does. So off I went and made my fifth board out of a water ski blank with side cut and steel edges. This was a step in the right direction. I then made my sixth and final board in 1985. It was thinner and had flex and side cut as well as steel edges. The rear foot strap was replaced with a second rotatable binding. The polyethylene base was replaced by polished fiberglass with a Teflon spray. It was a definite improvement. Since 1981, I've been riding under the radar at Mount Buller. But as the number of snowboarders started to increase in 1985, Mount Buller and most of the other Victorian mountains banned or severely restricted snowboarding. As the overseas snowboard manufacturers were producing better boards than I was building, I gave up my development efforts and switched to lobbying to get all the Victorian mountains opened up to boarding. We formed the Snowboard Riders of Victoria as part of the Victorian Ski Association and fought to have snowboarding accepted at all Victorian alpine resorts. In 1987, Flowmotion sold more snowboards in Victoria than all the other snowboard retailers combined and opened the first snowboard hire outlets in Victoria. Progressively, the goal to open all the Victorian resorts to snowboarders was achieved, with the last holdout, Mount Buller, finally allowing snowboarding in 1989. I was the only Victorian snowboard competitor at the first Australian snowboard contest in 1986 and was the Australian Masters Snowboard Champion in 1990 and 1991. I would have loved nothing more than to have spent the rest of my life snowboarding, but I had bigger fish to fry. I say that our democracy needs improving, and to that end I have been working on developing an internet application named VoteRap to do just that. VoteRap has been called the missing part of the internet and the ultimate consensus-seeking decision-making process. We need support to bring it to market, so if there is anybody out there watching this who has the resources to invest, then I'd love to talk to them about this opportunity. I'd even be prepared to sell my historic snowboard collection to fund Vote Wrap.